United We Om is a 501c3 nonprofit sharing accessible yoga and meditation with trauma-impacted and under-resourced communities. All of our workshops and trainings are offered by donation with no minimum donation. Your donation directly supports our mission of making the benefits of practice available to everyone. Thanks to supporters like you, we've continued to provide practice virtually throughout the pandemic. Learn more and support our work at unitedweom.org. Thank you.
Yay!
We're alive. It said we're live. We're alive.
We are alive. Pretty sure. 50-50. Probably real.
Hi.
Feels very real. Very real.
Real enough.
It's real enough.
It's Matt and Jenny.
Hello.
We are going to be joined today by our dear friend, beloved friend,
Joe Iadanza. The man, the myth, the legend. He's been with us since the absolute beginning. And here he comes.
Hi, Lori. Hi, Leah. You have to be patient, Matt.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You have to. He's going
gonna
to
reach out.
request. Our dog is drinking a smoothie in a very loud way back here. Let me see if I can take it from her.
There he is.
He has decided to join us. The magic is happening.
Yay!
There you guys are.
There he is.
What's shaking?
Oh, everything. How are you?
I'm good with my glasses on. It's like getting the distance right here is like the thing. Like it's like, oh, there you are. I can see you. What's up? I'm good. What's going on? What are you guys up to?
Oh, we're happy to talk to you. We are always happy to talk with you.
Aw.
And we know you intimately, but for anyone in this moment or in other dimensional moments that might watch this later, who are you, Joe Iadanza? How do you come to be here?
I am Joe. Hello. It's nice to meet you.
Are you sure?
Excellent label. Excellent label choice.
I think so. I am Joe Iadanza. I've known Matt and Jenny for many years now. Back when we were all hobbling around a Port Washington yoga studio, and I am a spiritual teacher. I'm a meditation teacher. I'm an interfaith minister, a musician. I do a whole bunch of different things. Keeps me feeling youthful, I guess. And I had a little studio in Port Washington for meditation and counseling, and Matt and Jenny were working in the yoga side. There's a yoga studio there as well, and I rented a space from. And one day they came in and they said, we're starting this new thing and we want you to be a board member. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. So but I did.
Actually,
I said, yeah, of course.
I want to stop you right there.
It's okay.
Because this is a great story that I think really sums up who you are and why we love you. Matt, do you remember? Because I know you do.
I do, yeah. We were actually at the sushi restaurant.
An eye diner.
Was I Diner?
Yes.
No,
Yeah,
I thought it was Ico. Doesn't matter. We're in a sushi restaurant. Just pick your favorite one. And we're there, and I was talking to Joe, and I asked him if he would be a board member, and he kind of closed his eyes, and then it kind of looked like he was whispering to himself. And then he looked at me and said, yes, I will. And I remember being really excited. I got hold and I talked to Jenny about it. I remember saying, like, he talked to himself. Who was he talking to? So maybe you can let the folks at home know who you were talking to, which I've come to.
Oh, that's a good idea, because that's a moment that would not have happened, 20 years ago for me. A moment like that 20 years ago would have been like, either it would just be like, yeah, sure, blah, blah, blah. Or it would have been like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't know, But in the years intervening, thankfully, I found a moment to be able to check in, and I literally listen. So I'm talking to myself. Maybe if you would consider yourself like at a higher self level, you know what I mean? But really, I'm like talking to the beloved, sort of, is how I look at it. I'm like talking to her, and it's like, and I'm like listening. I'm like, okay, so like, what are we doing here? Like, that's kind of like what's going on. It's like checking. So what are we doing here? And like, I'm listening for, I'm listening for a guidance, really, like an answer. And
you always heard that voice?
Not until I started really listening for it. I think it was there. like I definitely have moments in my life where I look back and I go, oh my God, it was there. But I wasn't really realizing that it was there.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I've been blessed with, because everybody has like a different way they can connect with spirit, let's say, like that, or in even their true self or their higher self. And for me, I've discovered over the years there's a few ways that I'm able to kind of get that feedback that I need. So like one of the ways is literally listening for like a voice, like a and it's actually more like a female voice that comes in, and it's like, and it's told me to do weird things over the years. Nothing terrible.
It's the hornet.
I
and
know
the
this hornet wants to just hang
you.
out on my arm right now.
It's because
All
he's
right.
pushing the
No,
hornet away, right, Joe? The hornet keeps going back.
Before we all tease me about my incredible fear of bugs with flying needles, go back to that female voice, because that's really interesting to me, because I hear voices too sometimes when I'm meditating, and one of mine is a British man, which I find totally random.
I think you've told me that. That's
clear as
right.
day, and he has all these British idioms that I don't have. So, all right, please tell us about the female who talks to you.
It's just a calming voice. That's like it's not a lot of words. It's not like, hey, how you doing, Joe? What's going on today? It's like do this. Or especially when I work with clients, like, and I'm like tuning in to, if I'm doing a counseling session with somebody, it'll be like, ask about this, which is really interesting to me. And those are the moments that I'll ask about like that, like, oh, tell me about blah, blah, blah. And they'll look at you like, whoa,
Oh, wow,
like,
cool.
well, whoa. Yeah. And so for me, it's about getting quiet enough to hear that. And that's one way that I hear it. Like another way, I get like, there's like physical tells. I call them tells. It's like, if I get the sense that I'm trying to feel out a decision, when I have that decision where I think that decision is, I get like a physical tell, like something like almost like goosebumps inside the body kind of feeling. That's like one that I get. And then the other one is like nature itself.
And that's like a yes or a no kind of a thing, like a
like if I get that
do or a don't.
Yeah, if I get that swelling, like whatever that thing I was thinking about, like, oh, I should do this. This feels like the right thing to do, and then bam, you know what I mean? Like it just like kind of swells up, and like I'm like, oh, that's it. That's what it's time. That's time to do that.
Okay.
And then I have like
feeling
like
affirmation. It's like a physical feeling.
Totally, exactly.
Very cool.
And then there's also like nature. There's a few tells in nature. I have like a bird that's like a spirit animal that always, like a black-capped chickadee, that like whenever I'm like, if I go to a new town, I'm sitting, I'm trying to think about what I should do next, and I get an idea, and all of a sudden I hear like a little. Like that little like chickadee kind of note, and I'm like, like I've had that. That's been with me since I'm like in 5th grade, and I didn't realize that though until I looked back and saw these moments that this little bird has been like kind of leading me around, like as a totem sort of. So that's been kind of cool. And some people think that's nuts, It's like, yes,
no, not at all. I love that. I have one myself, a hawk. I've always like a red-tailed hawk.
Nice.
And then when I was in Oxford studying drama, Shakespeare and that such. And I actually had a scene partner who was a shaman. And she did a ceremony over me to help me call in my spirit animal.
Oh, very nice.
She said that she saw my spirit animal very clearly, and she said it's a red-tailed hawk, which I was like, whoa! And then she said, I called something else from the forest for you, and what chose to emerge was a female deer. And take that with whatever you may. That's
sure
the animal that's here to assist you in this life. So anyway, I totally get that. I see the red-tailed hawks everywhere.
Oh, that's very, very cool.
Like it's very interesting to hear you both talking about this, and it's something that I'd wanted to talk with you about, that we never like carve out time to do. Are you losing us?
You lost us?
No, there you are. No, that's my phone tried to ring. I forgot to put it into do not disturb. So now try again. Sorry. So
we have a history. We have a precious conversation with Wrath that is like, it was like lost to the ages, and it's like my favorite mini podcast now, because like it was what this really is. Like it's not saved. It's not. I see you on your Wrath. We got you coming June 16th, June 19th. So
you were saying. So
I have been thinking so much in the last few months about origin yoga, not westernized yoga, but really like bringing myself way back to like Autobiography of a Yogi and Upanishads and
sure
original writings. And And it's really been calling to me to like consider this aspect of the beloved,
Mm-hmm.
of God, what I could call it, of faith, that I feel was really missing for me in my understanding of this,
Right.
the way that I originally learned it. And I know a little about this really beautiful personal tether that you have, you know, coming to you from many different faiths and lineages. And so I would love to hear from you, what, like, who are we really to you? Like, who is that beloved? What is that beloved to you?
Oh, that's beautiful. It's interesting. It's shifted over the years in my experiential understanding of it. So, like, you know, it started as I was raised Roman Catholic, and I consider myself still to be Roman Catholic. In fact, I've done a lot of healing around that because of and actually other faith, including yoga and including like Buddhism and all these kind of things, have actually influenced my desire and my kind of move to go deeper back into like where I came from. And so growing up, I was that kid in CCD, like the after school like catechism kind of thing, who was like listening to the teachers talk about the Bible and talk about God as a kind of wrathful, vengeful kind of thing. And then, but I'm like really literally looking at like these stories and like of like, you know, the teacher that was Jesus, this beautiful man that was Jesus. And I'm like looking at his thing and I'm like raising my hand going, but that's not what he says, you know, that's not what he's saying. You know, like this little fifth grader going like, this is not what he's saying. And them going kind of like,
You two get along so well.
yeah. And them kind of being like, shh, 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 you know, like, shut up, stop saying that. And I grew up also with my grandfather. Well, I had a couple of things. One, I have a saint in my family tree, and a lot of people know this. So like I'm a cousin to a saint, Saint Padre Pio of Pietrelcina, which is where my father's from. It's the town my dad was born in. My aunt still lives there. And so I have this familial intensity of having this, you know, literally a saint in your family. So that's one piece. And then that's on my mother's side. My grandfather, her father, he came out of World War II, you know, Purple Heart, wounded in Japan, like, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, came back with like incredible PTSD, which they didn't know what that was back then. It wasn't called that. And so he came back, and he's a man of like deep faith who would go to church every day, but then come home at the end of the day and like throw his fist through a wall, like aiming at like my mother, because like he was so angry. And so I grew up with, but the man that I knew years later, when he was an old man, was this gentle man who, through his journey with his faith, really helped to heal a lot of things for him. But I was holding these two things. I had my aunts and my mother's side of the family who called him a hypocrite because they had the wounds that they were still carrying of their youth and couldn't see the journey that he had taken. And so as a teenager, hearing the stories from them and seeing what he was, I was very confused about like this kind of intersection of these two opposites. And at the time, I didn't know how to hold both those things. And so for me, that I got very confused and I kind of threw the whole thing out. I was like, I don't want to deal with this Catholic God or any of this kind of stuff, you know? Then I went away from all that. And years later, when I started to kind of explore my own inner place, and I was trying to find who I was and who I, you know, in the midst of my own middle life, you know, nervousy breakdown kind of thing, I started to look for an answer in that. And so yoga was one of the first places that I went, in meditation. So that took me into kind of like the Indian religions. It also took me into, you know, to Buddhism and that kind of stuff. And so I loved diving into that. And it became a little more about my own personal inner journey and less about an external God kind of thing. So that's a piece of it. But what happened, though, and was very important for me, was I was doing a lot of healing work. I was in a couple of programs that were helping me to get to know myself better. But in the midst of that, I started to get this feeling of like, I really want to understand what this teaching was in the Catholic tradition that this guy who Jesus was trying to teach. I felt an incredible, like something kept pulling me. I found myself looking for books and all these.
There's something there, right? I mean, I got millions of followers.
Exactly. Excuse me. And so the thing that really shifted me back to that, this is a long answer, I know, to your question.
No, not at all.
It was, and I've told this story before, is I heard, I wish I could find it because I can't remember where it was that I saw it, but I saw this thing from the Dalai Lama was being asked. The Dalai Lama was being asked by a man, why should I become Buddhist? And the Dalai Lama said, I never told you to become Buddhist. What are you? And he said, I'm Jewish. And then the Dalai Lama said to him, then become more Jewish, which I thought was just, I mean, that was a life-changing moment that sticks with me to this day as like one of the turning point moments in my faith journey.
Wow, what an awesome
great.
It was, because, and the way I took that to mean and still do is, you know, all of these journeys are pointing to exactly the same place in their essence, you know.
In the essence.
And you know, I already have a symbolism that I relate to. It's like it's in my DNA, that symbolism. So you don't need to go learn another language when you already have a language that you can find that within. And that's what I did, and that was beautiful. So that led me to really exploring a lot of things, and ultimately I went to seminary, became an interfaith minister, to understand like the intersection of all these faiths, and also started working with something called A Course in Miracles, which is a huge thing that I'm connected to, and I've been teaching for years.
Tell us more, if you don't mind, about A Course in Miracles, because I didn't know about it until I met you, and interesting context.
A Course in Miracles was interesting because it's considered kind of like a channeled text. It's a religious sounding text because, well, so back in the 60s, a woman named Helen Schuckman started hearing a voice. This is brilliant, actually. I love this story. She was a psychology professor at Columbia, and she had a superior that she was working with, and they were arguing all the time. This guy, Bill. And one day, Bill actually said, like, there's got to be a better way. I just can't. This is ridiculous. We can't go on like this. They keep trying to achieve, and they're up, you know, always cutting each other down and stuff. And she went home and she started having these crazy dreams, like really crazy dreams, crazy enough that she started bringing them to Bill because they worked together. And the symbolism was very religious and very interesting. And then a few days later, they were just looking at them. And then a few days later, she's literally sitting, like, I don't think she was in her kitchen or something, and she heard a voice in her head that said, "This is A Course in Miracles, take notes." Yeah. And so she thought she was going nuts. So she started writing down what she heard, and she brought it to Bill, and Bill's like, well, let's just keep writing it down and see what happens. And if it stops, it stops. It's 7 years, every day she would write a little more, and she would just pick it up with the next sentence. And for 7 years, she created this textbook and workbook called A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles is it's a self-study program that is designed to teach you to listen to a different inner voice, which kind of ties us back to what we were talking before. It's not trying to teach you how to love. It's like love is who you are, you know? Love is what you are. And it's trying to show you how to remove the blocks to the awareness of love in yourself, the love's presence. Right. And it does that it doesn't even pretend not to. It does that through retraining your mind. It's a mind training program that gets you to question and look at the belief system you have. And through the help of this guide, which it would call the Holy Spirit, because it uses this Roman Catholic Judeo-Christian kind of symbolism. It's trying to get you to remember what you are and to actually experience that so that you can begin to heal the relationships around you. And forgiveness is a huge piece of A Course in Miracles. It's really about learning to forgive, everything. To forgive everything that seems to be an attack in any way on you or in anything else that's going on in the world. It's a very deep kind of practice, and it's intense. People can get a little like shaken up by it because it's like it's playing, you know, with your belief system. It's trying to shake it up a little bit. So.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
we need so much more of that in our world right now.
More belief system shaking up, that's for sure. You know, it's so cool that you mentioned all of that. I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. Do you have something?
Well, I wanted to say really quickly what is interesting to me about Course in Miracles, which also then ties into like yoga and all these other things. So, you know, there's A Course in Miracles is one of 1,000 teachings, right? And it says that right in there. It's not trying to pretend this is the be all end all. It's not, and it's not trying to pretend to like take you to some place of enlightenment. It's just trying to help take you to the next step. And but what it's trying to do is tell your mind to stop making all this shit up that it's constantly making up. And so it's, I mean, like if you take the second sutra, like Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha from yoga, the cessation of the modification of mind stuff was yoga, you know? This is the exact same, this is what it's doing. And the sutras do it one way. And of course, the Miracles does it one way, but it's doing the same thing. It's trying to get you to stop miscreating with your mind, essentially. You know, and when you do that, you sink into a deeper presence, a deeper reality, and you experience yoga or an enlightened state or a state of openness that you can then bring into everything else. So.
Oh, this is so good.
Yeah,
I have goosebumps all over, and I'm loving that where I feel like I'm really learning from this conversation with you, and what's like coming up for me is like it's like the parallels between this practice that I've chosen,
right,
and what I was raised in, and so many things that I never even put together. Like I was raised Jewish,
right,
and suddenly as you were describing this, you know, emergence of, you know, like Holy Spirit, God consciousness, you know, it just reminded me of being a little girl and being in synagogue. My mother was a cantor, so she was the one that chanted all the Hebrew.
Sure.
And you know, we would chant, we would sing, you know, in Hebrew, and I didn't understand most of the words, but I suddenly just had this strong physical parallel between that and mantra japa and chanting, which I do now as a practice. And I was just suddenly had this like light bulb, you know, I just had to say it out loud.
Try one of the old Jewish prayers.
I love that. I love that.
There is
Yeah.
it's like the same, right? It's like focusing the mind on a single point, which is God, love, the beloved, that we all are.
Yeah.
You know, and you could bring in, you know, like mystical Islam with you know, the Sufis and zikr, you know, like that practice of sweeping across the heart, you know, Ishq Allah, Mabud Allah, you know, it's like God is love, lover, beloved, you know, like this beautiful, like kind
of those weird moments too. We made, you know, you remember, so I remember confession, because I was also raised Roman Catholic, and so we would do confession once a week, and I remember you'd have to go in and you'd say something and blah, 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 and then they forgive your sins, and then you'd have to do a certain number of Hail Marys and Our Fathers.
right.
And it never occurred to me, except now as an adult, that if you were really putting in the work and say doing 50 of them or something around the rosary, that is mantra japa, and you get to that point where you're like, Our Father who art in heaven.
The rosary.
That's it. It's great. I have so many parallels with you on that, because I also was raised Roman Catholic, and I'm also now, through the practice of yoga, returning to the teachings of Jesus Christ, which I find just mind-fucking boggling, because I was a devout atheist, and like once, you know, Roman Catholicism, for me, I actually enjoyed the pageantry of it. Like, I liked when they came out with the incense and all that.
A lot of that in Western yoga too. We like a lot of
which I don't really care for as much. I
No,
don't know. It doesn't resonate.
Though. It's so interesting.
I love it. It's the core, you know, right? The teachings are the same.
There's so many beautiful teachers out there. I mean, they really are. You know, Buddha was a beautiful teacher. Jesus was a beautiful teacher. You know, even in our own world, even now, you know, Yogananda, yes, exactly. You know, and go back thousands of years, the women of Teresa of Lisieux, I don't know how to say it. You know, Saint Teresa, you know, Mother Teresa as a human living active. I mean, beautiful, beautiful teachers that are, people go like, there's nobody doing this. Like, you know, they'll say, or like, there's nobody who is really this connected. And I'm like, just, you're not looking, because they're everywhere. Even
they're
now.
Not on Instagram, but they are there.
No, they're everywhere. You know, Richard Rohr is a modern day, you know, Franciscan, you know, even the Pope to an extent, you know, these days, you know, and then, you know, Sai Baba, and, you know, I mean, there's teachers who are teaching this stuff, you know. What's his name? Sadhguru, you know, like, I mean, oh my God, you know, beautiful.
Has a new book coming out about karma, which I cannot wait to read.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, he's fabulous. I just started listening to him recently.
Yeah.
You know? So the teaching is there, but like what you said before, what I wanted to get to is kind of like how do you how does that beloved, right? What is that as a manifest experience or as a real relationship, right? Because again, I'm like a poet at heart, so everything is like a symbolic relationship. I don't think about God as a physical manifest being. I don't think of it, or even the universe. I don't even look at the universe as a manifest physical thing. It's a relationship, an ever deepening relationship. And, if I can get out of here with it and go into this place of just being and experiencing, spending time to be in that place with it, then it reveals itself and it becomes a very tactile kind of thing. It's never about this. I can talk all day and say things about how, wonderful wisdom sayings all day, but unless I'm really connected to that, it doesn't really matter. And that's the work, right?
It's just the
Constantly.
pageantry then.
It's just the pageantry.
Just the
right?
robes and the hats.
It's right. Otherwise, but we want to take time, and that's why things like meditation and stuff are so important to me, because it's about digging into the silence and seeing what is revealed in that place. That's huge,
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, when I was with one of my teachers, Shiva Ray, and she loves to, when we're all together, make all the sounds of the divine, and because they all share the bija, like Allah, and then yoga,
Amen.
Amen. There you go. I was wondering what's the one? Amen.
Yeah.
Or hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Exactly.
Another one.
Totally. There's a beautiful Craig Pruis. It's a beautiful thing called the 101 Names of the Divine. It's called the Devi chant, and it's this beautiful,
Lalita Trishakti.
It's so beautiful.
I sent it to Morgan. I see you on there, Morgan. I sent it to her because they're just amazing,
it's like 20 minutes long, and you just sit there in this beautiful voice over and over again saying that, oh God, I could listen to that all the time. I love that kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, this is good. We have more things we want to talk about too.
Okay. What else you got? What do you got for me?
Something specific you want to do?
Yeah, well, I did have something specific because, like, we could talk like for 4 hours, except that like Matt has to finish putting our trampoline together. So I know that if I don't like ask what I want to ask, that like the time will go by.
Sure.
I know something that's very much important to you is the idea of retreat.
Yes.
And I know that everybody can, I hope you share a little bit about like that which you anchor, and also what does retreat in its essence mean to you, like outside of like the pageantry?
Yes.
and how could someone cultivate that same essence, like if they can't physically go to a place right now?
Oh, that's a good question. All right. So the first thing first. See, for me, I was retreat happened for me as a necessity right from the beginning of my journey. I didn't know an experience of not retreat. What I mean by that is, so in my 30s, I had this really serious crisis in myself, and I broke down, and I needed something, and I had to make a choice on how I was going to go, what direction I was going to go with that.
Know anything about that?
No. Nothing has changed behind us at all.
No, exactly. It's like we repeat the same pattern over and over again, all of us as humans. You think we'd evolve out of this at some level.
Why all the books are so good.
Exactly. And so I had this is my 30s, but back in college, I had a professor who had, I took a class with, mysticism class, and she had, as part of that class, had invited us to her retreat center, and I went, and this is when I was 21, and I just loved this place, but then I graduated and I forgot all about it. It was beautiful, right? And then 10 years later, I find myself in a really deep struggle within myself, and she pops into my head like, call Alice and call Alice, and and I did. So I called the school, and she had retired, but I found the retreat center, and I call her, and the first thing she said, I'm like, I'm in a really tough place. I don't know what's going on. She goes, well, come for a retreat. And I'm like, okay. I didn't even know what it was, but that was like it. That was it. Come for a retreat. And all right, she goes, it's 3 days. You're going to come up to the property. I'll put you in the hut, like a little hut, and and for 3 days, it's a silent retreat. And so what that meant this was all new to me. I didn't know,
Yeah.
but I was so desperate at that moment that I was like, sure, whatever you say. And it's 3 full days, so 3 24-hour periods. So like not like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but like Thursday to Friday, Friday to Saturday, Saturday to Sunday. And you, other than meeting with your guide in the morning and the evening, you're spending the day basically in silence, but then also there's some exercises that your retreat guide gives you. Like she comes from a Sufi tradition, so maybe there would be zikr, or maybe, or if she invites you, even if you have your own religious background, bring your prayer beads, like go this 260 acres, go walk the property. There's the labyrinths, go walk the labyrinths. But the idea is that you're not excess reading. You're not bringing like your guitar with you. You're not, it's like you're just being with yourself. And the beauty of where I go, this is a place upstate, and I've been in other places, but Light on the Hill Retreat Center, it's in upstate New York outside of Ithaca, it's a powerful place. It's just the land itself is working on you. You can feel it. But you can get that anywhere, and we'll talk about that after. But the idea is that you're spending this time with yourself so that you're confronted by yourself. You're confronted by your fears. You're confronted by the lies you've been telling yourself, or the deceptions. And that doesn't mean that in a bitter way. I mean that in just an honest way. And so that first retreat was, and I got my first retreat was pouring rain the entire time until like the last hour that I was
You were
there.
in that hut.
So I was in that hut. I had to sit there. I was like a headache, and like my whole but I walked out of there like with tears in my eyes, just like this beautiful arc of letting go, emptying, and then through the way I was led through it, being kind of refilled up. And the beauty of this has stayed with me for the last 20 years, in that every year now I go on retreat for 3 days, just at least once. I mean, sometimes I try and do it more, but I got to do it once a year. And because it's like a reset, but it's also a launching point as well. Because a lot of people, even with their practices day to day, don't really dig deep. They don't go all in, you know what I mean? In such an intense way. So that gives
and then get up and then do the dishes.
It is. You're absolutely right. So this gives you that opportunity to be completely focused on your inner space for that period of time. And I recommend it for everybody. It's critical. And it's different than, and this is not at all to knock, like more active workshop kind of weekends, which some people will also call retreats. A retreat for me means to retreat, to remove yourself from everything and to go into an inner space. That's one thing. But then, like me and Morgan are doing in winter, we're going to do a winter embodied retreat, which ultimately is a workshop kind of weekend. We're going to be sitting, there's going to be quiet time and stuff, but it's more of a group process. There's going to be movement and stuff, and it can be equally powerful, but sometimes usually in a different way, so I encourage both of those kind of things for people. I really do. I really encourage both of those kind of things for people. Now, to the second part of your question, what do you do if you can't get away? Well, this is a good question. I would say it's helpful if you can kind of even just set a small portion of a day on a weekend together, away. If you could set a small portion of a weekend away for yourself, to turn off the phone, turn off the TV, maybe get kids out of the house, and your husband or your wife or your spouse, your partner out of the house, and you can just be with yourself, or go someplace quiet. Like get out if it's a nice day and go to the Arboretum and sit, pick a spot, draw a circle, and don't leave that spot for 8 hours. Bring, some water and a snack for yourself. You can do it. But I would say if you have somebody who's guided people before, touch in with them. I could give you guidance on how to spend the day, so that you're not just sitting there going, what do I do? Learn some skill on how to sit with feelings, to sit with emotions, to be observant, You know what I mean? Those kind of things. But then, and even if you can't do that, because I didn't go on retreat last year because of COVID, I do my meditation in the morning. Get up, I move a little, and I go sit for 20 minutes. 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever you can do. Just 5, 10, 20 minutes of quiet where you're just watching, observing, whether that you're antsy and you want to get up and run out of your seat, or just set the timer, double check the timer so you're not looking at your timer to see if you set your timer, and literally just sit in the discomfort and give yourself permission to be there, because it's huge. It's huge. Yeah.
Making time, even just in the small moments, like just setting aside an hour these days has felt like a retreat.
Yeah.
Like we've got a very impacted schedule with our children and their commute and school and work, and the whole show, just living the life of the co-parent. And Jenny and I were really struggling, and then we created space for each other where we trade off every other day. And it's not like we're taking, hours and hours, but we each get that hour or two, depending on what time you get up and want to get started, to just do that. And I tell you, when we first started, it felt like I was going to the spa. Yeah. And I'm talking about some like asana, a sit, and a shower. And you're just like, oh my God. But it is so important. And what it is, it's that same thing you're talking about, of pulling myself out of all of my to-dos and knowing that I've got my partner in crime here to take care of the kids, and everything is safe and secure, right? You got that feeling of safety, then you can really start to do the work. Yeah, I love what you're saying. We all need it deeply.
Yeah, and it's a challenge. When you're younger, and this was for me too, like when you're younger and you have kids, like that's why you always hear like the stories of how in different cultures, it's like, you have the parenting time, you have your work life, and then, you move on usually when you're older, in the older generation, and you start to go more deeply into your spiritual life, and like that in the crone stage and like the wise stage of your life. It's interesting. There's something fascinating, I think, that happened. I'd like to say it's kind of like in that post-Vatican II age, and especially from a spiritual perspective. But prior to this, like mid-60s, you got your spirituality, and even still today in with the guru relationships and stuff with other faith-based systems, you very much until the 60s got your information in a very regimented way that came very specifically from some elder or wise person or a priest or something like that, or a guru, and they handed you down this information a little at a time, as much as you could handle. Like it was like, and you only moved into the next place when you demonstrated some kind of mastery.
Yeah.
Around Vatican II, this is psychically interesting. Suddenly, the Vatican said, based on this Vatican II community thing that came up, you don't have to go to a priest anymore. It's encouraged to start interpreting these teachings on your own. You're encouraged to start to question these things. And I think that's when you started to see things like A Course in Miracles come out. That's when you started to see all these other, you start to see Yogananda coming out and like bringing a much broader, like just throwing it at the wall and seeing what kind of sticks. And suddenly what's happening is, at a younger age now, all of us as a people are starting to question things much more deeply, and there's information coming in to feed those questions. So suddenly I can pick up Autobiography of a Yogi and be like, and I can read on page blah 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 that he sat for a year by breathing in from his first chakra to his second chakra, and then down and up to his third, and then up to his fourth. And I was like, well, I'm going to do that for 3 weeks and see what happens.
Yeah.
And then like something starting to shift and getting kind of freaked out, and not having a guru to say, oh, you can't do it that way. You got to be careful. You're going to hurt yourself, or you're going to,
or to keep you moving. Like I was listening to Ram Dass, Always Forever, and it came up, I heard him say this time, like teachers and gurus, and like, like you don't need, you have it inside of you.
Yes.
But it's very helpful to have somebody like who's holding a signpost.
Yeah, to navigate you. Exactly. because there's a lot of reinventing the wheel that happens, but there's also can be a little fear if you don't have support. If you don't have support, that's why I also like the retreats, because it gives you a time to anchor with someone who's been through this to help guide you through it. As well as help, keep you disciplined in a way, because it takes much more work than anybody thinks. That's A, for a really deepened self-awareness kind of thing. I don't mean that in any way to imply that it's exclusive or anything. It just means that it just takes work. Yes, and self-care and a supportive, caring community. Absolutely. Someone just said self-care, just said down there.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, I teach in a 3-year program upstate, and like for 3 years, 20 people together for 3 years, working through learning to be compassionate and work through all their stuff together. So I think, like I said, like I was saying, these teachings now are everywhere, and it's wonderful because of the information it gives you and the possibilities that are opened from all these different angles and different ways of language approach and all these kind of things. But at the same time, it can be quite overwhelming because now there's so much available. There's almost no way to focus it.
Yeah.
And so we'll work a little while on something and then get frustrated and go, well, maybe it's not that. I'll go this way. I'll try this one. Well, that's not really working. When it probably would work. You just got
my experience in yoga, for a long time was going to classes where it was sort of like seen as like what you should do is keep changing it all the time to keep it interesting. And I'm not going to get on this soapbox today.
No, I hear you.
But you know that it's big.
Yeah.
I'll climb up there. But listening to what you're saying, I feel like it's so powerful, simple message for everyone that whatever it is that you feel, like Joe said, like that whisper of like alternate nostril breathing, like there's something there for me, or like japa, whether it's like rosary or English words or pigeon, that instead of feeling like we have to like master and dip our toe into everything, to allow ourselves, like you said, that practice of like, I'm going to try this for 3 weeks. Or like just a few days ago, Matt was like, I'm throwing out my list. I'm going to do this for 30 days. And just like go in.
Yeah, go deep, and I mean, I think for me, the most important thing that I have been able to cultivate and I've worked the hardest on was not so much the, what technique, what practice am I using? It's really about listening, becoming as present as I can in this moment so that I can hear where I'm being asked to go, For me, it's very much a surrender experiment. There's that book, right? The Surrender Experiment. It's beautiful. It's very much a surrender experiment for me. It's because I have found time and time again that when I insert my will into something, it's usually not. It just doesn't work. It does, it doesn't. And when I put my will towards listening, then, and I get out of the way of like when those decisions come and when those things happen, I listen and I choose to act upon it. Then stuff goes really, really well. I mean, really, and magic happens. I mean, miracles. I mean, things happen that stuff is like when you're really paying it. And that's what the beauty of paying attention is too, because you walk through life distracted by your next destination or the thing you got to get done. You are missing. I mean, the messages you are missing. There's no doubt in my mind. I've seen too much now to even doubt for a second.
Yeah.
I mean, and little things. It's not even like miraculous. Like you turn a corner and there's rainbows evereverywhere and an eagle floats.
Which does happen.
No, it does. It's like the simplest thing. I'll give you a perfect example. I love these kind of stories. I am going to be taking over with a co-teacher this program that I teach upstate called Hidden Treasure. It's a beautiful 3-year program. It's wonderful. It's called Hidden Treasure. It's about finding the hidden treasure within yourself. Carl Jung talks about it. Beautiful. And I was in Boston a couple of weeks ago with my love, and we were walking, and she said to me, "You sure you want to do this? This is a big deal, and she was kind of like challenging me on it, and I felt myself kind of withdrawing from the conversation and going kind of into this place of detachment. But I was staying aware, I was staying alert, and I was watching this happen. And I'm walking; it's a little drizzly, and I stop, and I just stop, and I just needed a breath for a second. And I looked down at my feet, and there's a plaque in the floor, like at the entrance to the park, and it says, "Save the American Treasures." And I was just like, wow. And And I'm like, there's your, there, like I said, paying attention, stopping when you feel when you said stop. Okay, I'm stopping. Something said stop, and I look
Yes,
down. You know what I mean? Like that kind
yes.
of thing. It's
But
like
here's that's the thing though, is like it's not only like you said, it's not looking for them, because if you aren't like connected to that plane of yourself, like
yes.
again, Ram Dass, he was talking about driving across the country and how he's like thinking about like how are we going to get to like the hotel and where is the gas stop, and the friend he's traveling with all of a sudden looks out the window and goes, Grand Union. He's like, reads the name of the grocery store. And I'm like, he was not there, but like Grand Union, like merge, whoa. Like, it's like you can read the sign, but
Right.
but like this doesn't make those connections.
No.
Like you're saying, right?
Yeah. And you have to be careful too, because if there's a type of watching that comes from more of an egoic place that's like looking for something very specific. Like, all right, if I walk around this corner and I see a rainbow, I'm going to know that my grandmother is watching over me. As opposed to, I'm just going to be open to anything and let me see what happens, and then learning, like I said, and through that process of deepening your presence, learning to listen and pay attention to anything that comes up. And that's huge, I mean, I just love stories. So I'm going to tell one more story because, again, these things can be very practical. And this is why I said, like, that was very practical. Sometimes, yes, there's like the heavens open and like it feels like an arm has come down and reached into your heart and ripped you open and it's beautiful. Like there's those moments. I've had those moments. They're beautiful moments. You dust your shoes off, you go back and you start walking again. But I was looking for an apartment. This is 3 years ago. I'm looking for an apartment. Actually, I was looking right down the street near where you guys used to live over at Dolphin Green. I was possibly going to take an apartment there. And I found it was going to be fine. It was a decent place. I took the paperwork. I was going to fill it out, and this voice in my head saying, wait, just wait. And I'm like, okay, I'll wait, but I'll just take the paperwork. And I was like, in case. And I had the paperwork on my desk, and someone says like, wait. And the realtor called me and she says like, hey, they want to at least approve you. Can you at least get the paperwork in? And I was like, okay, I'll start the paperwork. I start filling the paperwork and I hear, wait. I'm like, okay, I'm going to wait. And so I go for a ride. I take my motorcycle out. I go for a ride. And I'm hearing it the whole time. Wait, I go for lunch. Wait. I get on my bike. I'm like, let me just go home. I get on my bike and I pull up to a stoplight. And a white box truck pulls up next to me. And the white box truck is like just beautiful, shiny. I mean, way too clean for a box truck. Like it's like this thing was like right off the lot. And I look over and the sun is shining through the windshield. And on the windshield, on the dashboard is a big red sign with white letters reflecting up back into the thing. And it just says, wait.
Wow.
Now,
jeez.
So I wait. Now, it turns out that a month earlier, I had asked my friend Iris, who's a Kundalini yogi, about an apartment that I heard she had in her place, like available. And she's like, oh no, I've got a tenant. She's never going to get out. She's been here for 3 years. A week later, I got a call from Iris. She says, my tenant's moving out. I had no idea. She's moving to her boyfriend. Do you still need an apartment? And I was like,
yeah.
And that's where I am right now. So like it's not just, the depths of your soul that you are sometimes connecting with those beautiful places, but it's really like, should I make a left turn or a right turn? Should I order a burger or a salad? Like listening, not based on what you think you should know or what you should believe but what's actually telling you, what's actually being presented to you from God, from spirit, and for you to act on it. Yeah.
Are you familiar with
right. Just go ahead.
Are you familiar with Florence Scovel Shinn, The Game of Life and How to Play It?
No, I've heard of it, but
are you familiar with like Neville Goddard?
No.
This is all stuff I didn't know.
So Florence, she was a philosopher from like the 1920s,
okay.
And she's actually been the one who's sort of been pointing me back to like the teachings of Christ, and it's fabulous stuff because it's exactly what you're talking about. And she keeps saying over, she's like, it's all signs, friends. It's all a mirror. So just look in the mirror.
keep
Ask
looking,
the mirror for what you want. It'll show it to you.
Well, that's what everybody becomes in your life. When I take, and this is something that I've done very deeply, I don't look at everybody around me as separate people anymore. I don't. I consider myself to be walking around in my own mind, and everyone in it is a part of me. Literally, like not even like, oh, we're all one. No, no, no. I don't really look at it other than there's one mind that thinks itself to be a bunch of different minds, and that voice, like which I call Holy Spirit, is like that, the memory of your oneness, the memory of home. And so when I sit here talking with you guys, I'm literally talking to myself.
Yes.
You know, and so that it's very helpful for me, because now no one can, it's not, you're not being attacked. There's no attack.
Right.
And there's only the remembrance of the truth of what we are. And my job when I am in my right mind is to, no matter what seems to be presenting itself, to not play the game of separation, not to play the game of attack, to just open to the fact that these are, right now in front of me are two people who are me, and all of us at some level have forgotten that we're not even us. Yeah. And so to do the work of remembering for us when maybe you guys couldn't do it at this moment.
Yeah.
And that's forgiveness. That's like the depths of the forgiveness. Like, it's not forgiveness, someone did something to me and I'm now going to rise above it. It's, no, if we knew what we were, you know, Christ on the cross, forgive them, they know not what they do. If I knew what I was and we knew what we were, we could never even imagine. There would be no world for us to attack each other within. So my job is to hold the knowing of what we are underneath all of that, no matter what seems to be coming at me, an attack, an insult. No, I stand here with an open heart and keep trying to open that heart each time, you know.
That's why we do the work we do, right, Joe? That's it. You know, we don't do this work, you know, to help anybody. We don't, you know, take actions of service, you know, because we have something other people don't have, or that we should fix them or make them look like us. We, you know, it like you said, my experience of it also is a involuntary, channel of my understanding that everybody I walk into the room with is me, and I, you know, a practice of loving them actually for me is very easy. It's harder for me to reflect that back to myself. Like, it's if I actually think of myself as them, I can love myself in a bit of an easier way than vice versa. So we can flip it whichever way, because it's all the same, right?
Like whatever doorway works, absolutely. Whatever doorway works, take it, walk through it. Exactly. Oh, and you know, and that comes, you know, and that comes back to service and all the things that we've done with United We Own. You know, it's been an honor. It's been an honor to be part of that with you guys.
It is. I feel so grateful that we had work to do, you know, inner work to do together. You know, incredible. And, you know, it's like this idea of that everyone is Sangha. Right? Everyone is your sacred community. And sometimes being in relationship, like you were saying, with someone who sees themselves as Sangha is one thing. And if you're in relationship with someone that doesn't know that they're Sangha, then the practice is knowing that they really are Sangha. Or like who they are behind that disguise.
I love that. Yeah, and in Course in Miracles, we call it a holy relationship instead of a special relationship. Special relationship is one that's being used to maintain power play and separation. And the holy relationship is one where two souls are seeing each other through the lens of this work, and they're doing it consciously together. They're not, and agreeing not to attack each other while they're learning along the way, you know. So we do our best. We do our best. Yeah.
Oh, this was the best hour ever. Morgan asked if it could be a Joe Rogan style 4-hour interview, and it certainly could be. If we didn't have this trampoline hanging out for Dylan's birthday, I think it probably would have been. Yeah. But I just want to take this moment to highlight for everyone how practicing meditation with Joe, I think it has profoundly changed both of our lives.
It was my introduction to it. I mean, it really was the first time that I was able to grasp what it means, you know, to really just sit there and to be and to witness like what is happening. And that concept had never even occurred to me. You know, I'm such a doer. that you really were able to open up something of just allowing the bee to begin.
With so much compassion.
And your ability with the beginners is truly remarkable. You know, you're just really
beginners.
You know,
I was all twisted out of my mind with technique and all kinds of stuff. And that's almost
yeah.
the
I guess I
more
can't speak as
painful
an
thing
expert because I'm a beginner, but
than my beginner mind. So I want everybody to know that you can find Joe at Joe Iadanza, and also he has so many different avenues.
yeah. Where else can people get in touch with you? Like how else can we find you if we want to connect?
So you can get in touch with me here at Joe Iadanza. I have a kind of right now I'm rebuilding the living room, which was the old studio that I had, the living room studio. So it's livingroomstudio.org is a website there. There's a little bit of information there, but right now it's kind of sparse since COVID and shutting down studios and stuff. But just you can reach out to me, you know, Joe Iadanza at yahoo.com. I'm pretty accessible. And
And we have a 20-day meditation series on our website, which is just like, I have to say it's amazing. 20 days straight you can do.
Yeah, that was cool.
Daily meditation with Joe, which is
and
just a click from our
ones up there as
bio.
well this week.
Yeah,
and three new ones, which will be direct link from our bio. As of today, you can just like click practice with Joe.
Yeah.
It'll take you right to him.
Yeah, and I do one-on-one counseling. I do group work. Morgan and I are doing a retreat Morgan Rose and I are doing a retreat in December for winter embodied.
There.
And I teach in Hidden Treasure. If anybody's interested, hiddentreasureprogram.com, upstate New York. The next class starts in the fall, and we're already bringing some people in, and that's a beautiful way if you want to dig like deep into both the psychology and the spirituality of a practice and your own discovery of yourself. That is a huge, it's a big commitment, but it's a beautiful program. It changed my life, and I'm glad to be teaching it. So,
And your album, we can also.
Oh, and I'm a musician. Yeah, from my Joe Iadanza Instagram, you'll see a bunch of music and stuff, and I got records out there and that kind of stuff. If you like kind of like Cat Stevens or Springsteen-y kind of stuff, you'll probably dig that kind of thing. So
it's beautiful music. You are beautiful.
You are beautiful. Thank you.
You are, my friend. It was so good to see you.
And thank you, everybody who hung here with us for this conversation. We read everything you shared and felt.
I saw a bunch of friends there.
Yeah.
I saw Carol Ann Solabella for a second. I saw my friend Allison. I saw Morgan. Who else is there? Some folks I didn't know. Raph is there.
Amy.
Self-care is for everyone. I don't know who you are, but you're beautiful too. Thanks, Lori.
Self-care for everyone.
Leah's here, Mandy's here. We love you all so much.
All right, you guys have a beautiful day, you know. Go get that trampoline done. I want to come and use it when we go up for our retreat.
You're going
you will.
We're
so
excited
to see you soon.
That's coming to the Instagram.
It's big enough for adults, believe me.
Okay, good.
We can take 450, so mini adults will have fun. All right, beautiful man. Good to see you. We'll see you soon.
Bye,
You got it. Take care.
Bye,
Bye.
Joe.